Last night I saw Christine, the 2016 film starring Rebecca C. Hall as Christine Chubbuck, the real-life Christine Chubbuck, who was a newscaster in a small Sarasota television station, and in 1974 she committed suicide on live television. It was a very controversial event, and it was I first learned about it in that book, Killing for Culture, that I reviewed a while back. And so this film tells the whole story. It's a whole Christine Chubbuck biopic, which follows her. We start with her at the station. She's been there about a year, and we just follow her through her own depression and her stages of depression as she lurches toward her final act. Well, the film is great. The film is it is a depressing movie. I mean, it's a depressing movie, but it's also a wonderful character study. It's just a wonderful film where this is an Oscar-worthy performance. I think it's throughout. It's a beautiful, wonderful, flawless performance. Hall, seems to almost become Chubbuck, and I think anyone who's had any kind of social anxiety or awkwardness or career issues throughout their life, it's a film that you can relate to. It's not very often these days that you have films about people that you can relate to, a person that's not a space alien or a superhero or genetically altered or in some kind of weird, alternate universe, planet, time frame. I mean, this film feels like a very back to basics, like 70s film. It almost feels kind of vaguely Altman-esque. But in many ways, it's not like Robert Altman. But it feels like that kind of the movies they used to make in the 70s, which were movies about people, and people on the phrase, people on the edges of society, or people who, just movies about people and what they do and how they feel. And so the subject matter is quite gruesome, and the emotional journey of Christine Chubbuck is quite depressing. But the whole, Chubbuck's daily life, her living with her mother, and her relationships with the people at the television studios, and how she deals with it, and her loneliness and her isolation, and yet her the whole, all the scenes of her volunteering at a puppet show at a hospital, and all of this stuff is just beautiful, wonderful character moments. And so it's fascinating to watch this person embody the real life character, the real life person, Christine Chubbuck, and create just a wonderful film, wonderful, great film. Rebecca Hall is great. All the actors really in this film there's a lot of really great actors. I guess the two main actors are Rebecca Hall and Michael C. Hall, who plays George, the kind of the handsome newscaster. I didn't know Michael C. Hall of Dexter and so forth. Now he plays like a newscaster, and he basically is he has the newscaster voice, and he just pulls it off. I didn't know he could do that. I guess he has that deep voice, and he really becomes this newscaster, and he is kind of an object of fascination, for Rebecca Hall's Chubbuck character. Apparently, in real life, Chubbuck did have this feelings. She had feelings for this newscaster, which were kind of never requited. And so he plays it off, and the relationship between those two is something very, very magical. Not related, again, Michael C. Hall and Rebecca Hall, not related, but then they have, I think, according to some trivia, they both have spouses that are named Morgan, and then they both have secretaries. One secretary is named Lincoln, one secretary is named Kennedy. No, it's another coincidence, Kennedy and Lincoln. But that's very weird that Rebecca C. Hall and Michael Hall, or is that Michael C. Hall and Rebecca Hall? I don't know. It's at this point they're indistinguishable. They're in my mind coming together. There's just one Hall. There's Rebecca Michael C. Hall at this point. So it's a great film. It's told in that slow pace of a very 70s, maverick director film, but very accessible. It's not like an Altman film like Three Women, which in my head I was thinking, this almost be like Three Women. This is about the travails of this woman in this world, but it's not really surreal. It's very realistically based, grounded in reality, and it's a very accessible film. It's a very easy film for an audience to follow. It's very mainstream in a way, which is not a bad thing, which can be a good thing. So I really enjoyed that it was not a slog to watch. It's very a direct, dynamic film that's very easy to watch. Apart from the beautiful story and the great drama that's being on display in this film, another facet that really fascinated me is the technology. This film appears to be a very meticulous recreation of a mid-70s low small market television station, in that they use these gigantic 2-inch quad tape formats, which is a tape format which was used in the early 70s, or I guess late 60s, early 70s, and into the early 80s. These 2-inch quad tapes were how video was archived and recorded, and so you have all of that technology there, and they have the 16 millimeter, because news stations in the 70s, they actually shot on 16 millimeter film. They shot on these Auricon 16 millimeter cameras that had sound on film, that would actually record sound on the film at the same time, and so those are on display. But then they're making a transition to these Akai portable video cameras. Portable. It's a video camera that's hooked to a small suitcase, which actually has the videotape recorder built into it. So it's not really by our definition of portable, not very portable at all. But the technology seems to be meticulously recreated in this film, and it seems like a lot of research has been done into the life of Chubbuck and the people who are surrounding her. And I mean, there are things that seem to be changed. Like I think Christine lived with another relative in addition to her mother, and some things kind of have been moved around, but it feels like the spine of the story is very, very close to real life, to her real life, to what she did. And it seems like they did a lot of research, into Christine's life, into the television studio, into the people and personnel of that television studio, and I think it pays off. I mean, I think when you see a movie that where they've done that research, and maybe they've had to change stuff because of budget or finance or story, they can't do something, at least they've done that research, and you can just see it has this spine of reality and truth to it that I think other films, where they take a lot of they take a lot of shortcuts and liberties with the truth, I think you realize it. And I think in this film there's a lot of meticulous research and everything. Also, it feels like this is what living in Florida in the mid-70s used to be like. I was born in Florida. I grew up in Florida. I didn't grow up in South Florida, so I've never been to Sarasota. I lived for a while in Orlando, and I guess the closest I've gotten to Sarasota is like maybe St. Petersburg and in that area. But even Northwest Florida, the Pensacola area, in the Panhandle of Florida, I've always, I've had relatives and people who were part of the beach thing in Florida, and it seemed like the Florida of the 1970s was a very cool place to live. It was a special place. It was a much smaller. It was blowing up. It was getting huge, but it was still small. It was still the small little beachy community, especially in Northwest Florida, but maybe even I'm sure the Miami, Sarasota, the South Florida area was a lot bigger. But even then, it was an interesting, and it was interesting. It was just a tiny little community with all these cool beaches and stuff, and then the Christine's house that's on stilts, going to my relative's houses on the beach, having to be all on stilts. I don't know, there's something about this movie. It just somehow captures what I think it might have felt like to live in Florida in a way that maybe other films just don't. Florida is either Miami or Disney or something flashy, but there's a very simplistic, common reality to this film, which I think is something that not a lot of other films can really capture. And I thought that was just great. So, I mean, Christine, a great film. It's a movie that is just kind of, I think it was very big in the 2016 Sundance, but it really hasn't gotten much release here. It's now out on video on demand in the U.S., and I think very soon it's going to be released theatrically in the U.K. But if you have a chance to watch it, it's a very interesting, very, very special film, and something that, don't let the gruesome subject matter kind of turn you off. This is not Faces of Death. This is not a tabloid TV movie. This is a story about a real person, real emotions, real characters, and it's a story with a lot of value, and with a lot of value and a sense of purpose, done carefully and eloquently, and the type of film that you want to see being made. You got all this crap with the superheroes and the next 20 Star Wars films. For every 20 or 30 Star Wars films, hopefully there's more than a few of a beautiful little character drama like Christine that's available to us. I hopefully for every 50th Avengers film we'll get a few of these made. So great film. I love it.